About limited consulting services under an RFP that's already been out and discussed in front of the council several times and reports back from the subcommittee. What you're talking about in an economic development specialist is creating an in City Hall full-time position with benefits.
Yes.
Yes, I mean, those are really
I'm talking about a
different.
permanent solution to dealing with our economic development needs. I'm really,
Right.
and we've been talking about this for years, so I'm feeling as if.
No, actually, we've had economic development specialists years previously. We have had that position at the chamber, at City Hall, and several people, different people have done that in their own way. And all I'm saying is right now, we don't even have an agreed upon job description that outlines the responsibilities and our expectation for those services. But I think Councilmember Eater, you earlier had something you wanted to say?
All I was going to say is I think if we take on both of those positions simultaneously or somewhat simultaneously, you know, it conceivably creates a lot of new burden on staff and maybe doesn't allow us to focus our attention on just the Pine Grove person first, you know, for a while. Because now we've got two people doing, you know, seemingly somewhat parallel tasks. We're having to monitor and supervise and figure out what they're coming up with. And, you know what I'm saying, maybe just take it a little bit more slowly, you know, and maybe get entrenched with one or the other, whichever this council determines is the more priority, you know, the higher priority position. And once we get some sense of comfort with that, then move forward and bring on the additional. I mean, I understand where there's value in synergy, you know, them working together, but you know, we talked so many times about allocation of, you know, demands on staff time and creating new burdens, and can they be met on top of those that already exist? And I'm just questioning whether we have the ability to absorb both new positions somewhat simultaneously. It's a question and not a position really, more than anything.
Well, it's a good something to think about.
The Pine Grove consultant is just that, it's a consultant, it's a finite, defined project that has a clear ending definition. So it's not staff, it's not somebody inside of City Hall. So, for what that's worth.
Okay, let's wrap up the discussion on the motion so we can vote, especially if we need a follow-on motion, okay? Any more comments?
Well, I'm tending to, after listening to Councilmember Eater, think that he has a good point. And also kind of sensing that staff was feeling like they were going to spend time on one and then not two at a time. So I'm tending to agree with Councilmember Eater. But I do think that we should agendize doing some definition work and defining what it is we want, so we're ready to roll with it next fiscal year.
Any other discussion this way? All right, so we have the motion that has been stated very clearly. Does anybody want to repeat it? We're all good? All right, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I don't know if you say no or yes when you say that. Okay, so it's down to a 3-2. Would you like to return your original motion?
Which is the same motion minus the economic development position?
It's easy for you to say.
And the money going to the general reserve, is what you said
Correct.
originally?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Okay, any discussion on that one? Well, my question is, how soon can we bring back the job description for the economic development specialist, and the agenda setting committee can look at that and see what's ahead and when it might come back? Any other discussion? No, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That's a 4-1, so that carries. Would the council like a break now, or are you ready to move to the next item?
Let's
I suggest we keep moving.
at least dispense with one more item.
Okay?
May I ask a question?
Is it something that you need the whole council to
I
answer?
just want to know whether there needs to be a vote on reallocating the kitchen 10,000 to the floor.
Is there
Does
anything
that require?
to clarify that in the budget tonight?
Does
to the
that,
city manager,
does that require city council approval?
the reallocation. We can do that by simple motion if we need to. He's lost his microphone. There he is. Would you like a motion to that?
Good point. Do we have a motion for that?
Okay, we're looking for a motion that reallocates the kitchen remodel money to the flooring at the SCCC.
I so move.
Moved, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Slater, any discussion? Thank you, Diana. We'll make this official. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, Mary, did you have a question?
Oh, no,
Okay.
I was trying to read.
Okay, all right, so we're going to move on.
Personally, I was floored by your,
And
Would you like to see the floor?
I see.
the pictures were
Yeah,
very
look.
impressive. You did that the other night, I recall.
I stole some from the installation day, put it in our kitchen.
So we're gonna move to item number, are we all the way up to number 8? Wow.
Eight?
And remember, we have a closed session tonight?
I thought we were on 9.
No, this is discussion and action of planning commission appointment due to the resignation of our former commissioner Scott Stegman.
Let's put this one off to last.
Till last. All right, so could we have a report, quick report from our city manager?
As the council directed when it did its previous interviews and appointments to the planning commission, staff did notice the additional vacancy on the resignation of Commissioner Scott Stegman. We did not receive any further applications, so assuming the council wishes to proceed making the appointment from the applications previously received and the interviews previously performed, it's now before you this evening to appoint a replacement for Commissioner Stegman.
So is there any discussion of this item?
Yes.
Yes, Councilmember.
I reviewed my little tally sheet prior to leaving tonight, and the results I remember seeing were that 2 council members, that'd be Councilmember Slater and myself, indicated interest in appointing Mr. Fritz to the Planning Commission of the 2 remaining candidates, and that according to that sheet, there was no indication of support for Mr. Skinner, so I just was bringing that back. I think that, unless somebody contradicts that.
Personally, I thought to review my little tally, but I didn't, so, okay,
That's kind of where we left it.
that's kind of where we left it. Any other comments? We'll get to the public. I'm just wondering if council, would anyone from the public like to speak on this item? Seeing no one come forward, then I will just comment. I don't believe I said this, or necessarily anyone said it last time, and it's something that Jeffrey Skinner brings with him to any appointment, and that is an intimate and immediate and thorough knowledge of every street and sidewalk and turn in this community, along with, other amenities and beauty spots and history behind that. So it's the kind of thing, if you canvass and go door to door, you get a sense of, but he understands it from that social, political, cultural point of view as well. And I think that's highly valuable to the Planning Commission. So I'm grateful that Jeffrey has kept his application in, and we understand in our near future there will also be an opening for an alternate from the Planning Commission once we process that agenda item. Did you want to comment or make a motion?
Sure, I would like to, let's see, I suppose it's a nomination, isn't it? I'd like to nominate Paul Fritz to the Planning Commission, and I would also like to have staff weigh in on the future alternate position and the timeframe on that coming back to council, and in relation to Mr. Skinner's application.
I'll send the motion.
Okay, so I think we have a motion there, which is to nominate Paul Fritz to the appointment, and then a question following. So there's a second to the motion by Councilmember Jacob. Did staff want to answer that question about timing on the alternate position?
So a public hearing has been noticed for February 16th to do an ordinance amendment to the current planning commission term for the March 1st. Council item for ordinance approval, second reading and adoption, 30 days for council for ordinance to take effect. Then we will go ahead and open it up for applications, so,
April.
May probably.
May 1 or thereafter.
Yes.
But this is where government moves really slow. So April 1, and then we open for 30 days. Okay,
You forgot the part where we have to discuss it.
for 2 hours. Right. Hey, we were 2 hours on the budget tonight. That's a pretty thorough review on that, of everything you gave us. All right, any other discussion? Seeing none, then, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? There you go.
Congratulations.
You get to start next week, Paul.
With the big meeting.
Congratulations, and thank you. Yeah, we've got that big meeting coming up February 9th. 6 o'clock start. It's earlier than the last one, so looks like you got that on your calendar. Thank you very much for your continued interest and service, Paul.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're on to item number 9. We've got some, I think, kind of shorter items before we get to goals and objectives in the closed session. So let's go through these if we can. Discussion and consideration of a request from Mayors and Council Members Association for suggested topics on regional issues of significance for our meetings. Let's see, our city manager want to give a quick report?
At the last Mayors and Council Members Association meeting, which was October 8th of 2015, the Board of Directors of the Association took action to request that each city or town consider submitting suggestions for regional issues of significance which they would like the general membership to take up as issues in 2016. As the council knows, the city of Sebastopol is hosting the next meeting of the Mayors and Council Members Association, which takes place next Thursday, February 11th, here in Sebastopol. And at that meeting, it's expected that we would bring up to 3 issues of concern and or interest which impact the region. And that's for discussion this evening, for the council to direct the mayor as to what to propose at that particular meeting. Back to the October 8, 2015 meeting. At that meeting, Vice Mayor Glass was in attendance and could perhaps shed some further light if needed on what was the intent of this request.
So do you want to go into that, or shall we pass on it? It's up to you.
Well, I'd just like to make a comment that I felt the intent was a little bit unclear, and that there was some discussion of these issues being taken up and there being some advocacy around them. And it would be my interpretation that it's not about advocacy, it's about education of the mayors and council people, and that any issues that we as a city put forward as issues to be, the issues that we show interest in, that our interest as a city is that we have education about those issues and perhaps discussion about those issues in the Mayors and Councilmen's Association, but that we are not participating in the notion that the Mayors and Councilmen's do advocacy work as a group, because then there's no staff, there's no formal legal platform for an organization such as that to do that. So I just want to be clear that as a city, I think what we're asking for is public, or not public, but council member education as we put these ideas forward.
Our city clerk?
Can I also state that just today we received the packet for the February 11th Mayors and Council Members, and there was just 3 or 4 short little paragraphs relating to this item. Would you mind if I just read them out loud?
How about with a microphone?
Yeah, please do.
So these were from the draft minutes of the last meeting relating to this item. And basically what it said is Vernon Park Vice Mayor Belforte discussed her proposal to undertake and or address issues or projects of countywide or regional interest, i.e. composting issue, whether to support the library ballot measure. Interest was expressed about getting additional information on how the topics would be selected, the voting structure, and the ability to opt out if an issue project was not of interest to a given city. It was suggested that the programs for the general membership meetings be on the topics of regional interest. Following the discussion, it was moved by Petaluma, seconded by Cloverdale, to agendize the matter for further discussion at the next meeting with focus on the topic selection and voting structure, and request that each city-town submit issues of regional significance that they would like the association to take up as issues in 2016. So that was all there was to the minutes.
So I'm just asking if is my interpretation of that what I thought it was?
Correct.
Okay, so they're talking about voting on specific issues. So as a city, us voting on specific issues. Okay,
Right, and part of that was the ability to opt out if an issue project was not of interest to the city.
opt out of voting instead of, that doesn't.
Instead of
make
voting no?
That doesn't make any sense, that then we would vote no.
So, I think our interest in this agenda item tonight is to suggest educational programs of regional interest, so everybody in the room may want to pay attention to the 20-minute presentation.
Right, and I think we do want to assert, I have spoken with other council members in other cities about this, and apparently, I was not hearing from other council members that they heard what I heard, which was voting on regional issues, but apparently the minutes say that I heard it right. I would say that I would suggest that as a council, we talk about what issues we're interested in for the programs and for the educational benefit of all of our cities in our region, but that we very clearly not support any notion that the Mayors and Councilmen's Association could be voting when there is no staff report, there is no legal platform for that organization to actually be recommending information from what I would think is a credible position that includes staff information, et cetera.
Well, and also, I don't think it's appropriate for the mayor of a city to vote without a thorough discussion and direction from an entire council to tell that mayor what to do
Right.
and have a vote in that 9-member board.
Yeah.
So, and we know these issues of regional significance when I was at the Waste Management Agency and the matrix that we did before. I mean, all those issues. We have to fully vet at our individual council level, let alone work in a group that has each its own staff and who knows what point of view, because that's not thoroughly represented because it's only the mayor with a direction who's there. So I'm quite surprised that anyone would entertain that as a practical idea, because it really deprives the electorate and turns this body into a PAC.
Right, I don't see that there is any legal basis for doing this, and for precisely the reasons you said, there is no democratic process that goes towards the deliberation.
Well, I think rather than providing a list, let's just say what we think. That while I think the intent of this is good, this was something that was very, very briefly and initially brought up when I was attending as the representative to the executive committee. And in fact, I think it was even brought up after we adjourned one day. That was the only time that I was involved with any kind of a discussion. And I think the idea of it was sincere and a good intent, but I think rather than thinking that we're some sort of legislative group, I think maybe a more input as to presentation topics and getting speakers on programs that are of interest to the entire region to educate us, to me that makes significantly more sense.
Well, and this issue is actually handled in the bylaws. The vice chair is the program coordinator, And when I was the vice chair, I just polled all the cities and said, hey, what do you want to hear about? And I mean, we just rolled out the programs from that information. What was the hottest topic of regional interest, and that's what we did. So I'm surprised that this is coming up, unless, you know, it's just to get those ideas. But I think we can pull some practical suggestions together tonight.
Well, I think we should perhaps tonight come up with some suggestions about what we want to see in programs, A, and then B, say that we're not interested, or that we think it's not appropriate, actually, for that body to act as kind of like a PAC.
Okay, so I want to share something else with you guys. This is important because Una was at the last meeting and participated in the discussion, and she will be going in my place to this meeting because I'm going to be, as a family law attorney, in the one and only training that happens to happen with the judges and court staff, family law department that very afternoon. So I'm not going to be able to get there. So I appreciate Una being a better choice than me because she has the history on this issue and also being available to cover. So some program ideas. I thought compost was a good one. I mean, if we don't have a regional compost facility, like, we lost that. Wouldn't we like it? Any other ideas?
I'm wondering about, actually, given what we talked about this evening, is water education.
It's a good one.
Well, you know, I'm a little confused because my reading of this says 3 issues of concern and or interest. Nowhere in here did I see the word education, like what we'd like to be educated about. So I took this as, what are the cities in Sonoma County concerned about? You know, like, what are the issues of concern, not like, what would you like to have a class about? So, approaching it from that perspective, the 3 I came up with was proliferation of wineries and event centers, homeless services, and transit connectors to the smart train system. You know, because we've got this great train that nobody can get to. Unless you live up alongside the tracks. So, and then affordable housing as an alternate 4th choice, because that seems like everybody's concerned about that.
Okay, so,
How do you get educated about transit connectors to the smart train?
Well, that's what I'm wondering.
Bus schedule?
that's what I'm wondering, how do you get educated about proliferation of wineries? We could
Exactly.
preserve rural Sonoma County, we'll give them a place to speak, but I'm not sure who would
Call
be,
Shepherd to come to your house.
or do we call the PRMD person who's processing the applications? I don't know.
So I guess I misinterpreted the intent of it. So-
Well, I actually think we could get more educated on the connectors to the smart train by having a presentation by the transportation agency, talking about what their plans are, and then we can think about whether those plans work for us. I mean, I feel like I could learn more about that, but, event centers, I don't think we're gonna get.
Yeah, see, my take on that was that all the cities should go to the Sonoma County Transit, we demand
Right.
that you create connectors to the smart train, because we have a significant population that can't utilize this new $1 zillion
Right.
infrastructure.
We have buses now that our significant population doesn't even get on.
I get that.
Right. Okay, so, the topic is educational programs that we want to suggest. So, I think proliferation of wineries might be an impractical one, although it's of interest to us. Homelessness is a good one. I think, there is the homeless count, there are results that are gonna come out of that.
County's got their toolbox.
They got it organized.
They're working on it.
They could give us an update on that, yeah. Do you have any subjects you'd like to suggest, you guys?
Well, infrastructure financing, I think that's common. I think every city's looking for money.
New revenue sources.
New revenue sources.
New revenue sources.
And resource sharing, and this is more appropriate to the small cities, but is, and I don't know, this is, again, sort of open-ended on this item, but is there any interest or reason or anything to share personnel, equipment, knowledge amongst cities? And is there some sort of savings that could happen there? I don't know. That's more of a staff question, I guess.
Yeah, who's gonna present on a subject like that, that all of us would listen to?
I think there could be a presentation on temporary occupancy surge in the county. I think every city and the county are experiencing a temporary occupancy surge. And I think some discussion around what might be causing that, maybe information from the Tourist and Visitors Bureau, or really the casino could probably just tell us all about it, but I'm trying not to make that assumption. So it might be a good idea for the mayors and councilors to talk about the fact that there seems to be a surge in occupancy of temporary units. And that might also include Airbnb or that conversation as well. Just sort of temporary occupancy tax and how that's changing in our county right now would be a great topic.
I did, I think I mentioned this before, but I attended a workshop at the League of Cities that was about the replacement for community development style financing. So there's there was new legislation that created tax increment financing. And I think probably a lot of cities don't actually know much about that. And learning about the new tax increment financing vehicles, that is something similar to redevelopment money, would be a good topic.
Okay.
Because it's so much fun.
So interesting. What about rent control? I mean, approaches to rent control. You know, some cities are already dealing, they're a little advanced on that, but what about rent control? All right, so we need to give them a top three.
How about EMF?
MF, I don't think that would go very far with other cities. We need to give them our top three. Top three. Does rent control fit into top three? Does it say
There's 4
up to 3? Top 3, what do you vote for?
out of the box, just give them too many.
We can do that.
And, yeah.
Want to give them this whole list? Do we want to include the winery deal? And the transit?
I don't know if that's something you could be educated about, it's more a thing about,
I'm just checking with you on those.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
not an education topic.
Okay.
Hey, Windsor gave them 5.
Yeah, we can give them all of these.
Yeah.
Resource sharing, TOT surge, I wrote that twice. Rent control, tax increment. It took us so far 8 minutes, buddy. Tax increment, vehicle union, that one. Compost facilities, how to get a compost facility. Water education, conservation education.
Yep.
Okay. Mary, are you up to date with all those?
Yeah, can I just get clarification on the vehicle one?
What is the tax increment?
Oh, it's tax increment financing, it's the same concept as redevelopment money.
Okay.
So you do public investment, and you get a return on the income, blah, blah, blah.
Got it.
There's actually was an assembly bill that made it work, but I can't remember what the details.
Okay. Well, I think we've got the list, and would you be available to Mary if she needed more clarification offline? Okay. All right, so let's see. Does this need a vote, or can we just,
I would prefer to have a motion.
okay, so I will move that the topics we have just proposed be put in a letter and forwarded to mayors and council members and our representative at that meeting.
Can I amend that motion?
Yeah, or we can do two if you want to put the second part in the second motion.
I think you need to be specific in that motion about that those are topics for discussion.
These are educational topics for a program.
Right.
Sorry, I thought that was understood. We already clarified. We're giving ideas for educational programs. And that's how the letter's going to describe it. Okay? Second, is there a second?
Second.
All right, any other discussion?
Aye.
Do you need a motion about the other part? Do you want to follow on motion? Just,
Yeah.
okay, we'll do that as a second motion. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, and your second motion is?
My second motion is that I would like direction from the council that we want to participate in the organization for educational and networking purposes, but we do not support the organization taking positions on issues, because there is no legal basis for it doing so. Does that make sense, City Attorney?
It's exactly right.
Thank you.
Okay, is there a second to that? I'll second it. Any other discussion?
Or legislative action, add that to the end of the sentence.
Okay, support the organization taking positions or legislative action?
Right.
Okay, that's added to your motion, and I will second that amended motion. Okay, any discussion? This is really important. It is.
Well, I just feel like we have no information, that we have a one-sided argument from you guys about why it shouldn't be, and we're not consulting mayors and council members in any way about why it should be or why they do it, and we're making a decision here pretty much based off of a motion that's tapped on to another item that actually has no staff report or no education around it. So
No, actually, this came up in the discussion of this item, and that's why this item was agendized, and that's why Mary read from the minutes, because there was confusion about what the request was out to the cities, and that's why we had to talk about it.
And-
That's why we're trying to be clear about the point of our subjects that were listed.
And I discussed it with our city attorney, whether in fact a non-legislative body can be taking legislative and positions about issues.
Well, the League of California Cities does it.
We're gonna have the city attorney answer.
I think theoretically, the mayors and council members could be possibly reformulated in some way where it could do those things, but it's not set up to do that now. It doesn't have a staff that analyzes these issues and comes up with information. It doesn't have a voting structure to give direction. So I think work would have to be done, mayors and council members, to achieve that goal. That's what they really wanted to do. So it's not set up to do that now. That's why I agree with the motion.
And, I mean, let's keep this in mind. If there was some issue that was regional of interest and cities did want to take a position on it, a city could initiate that by vote of their council and a letter to the board of supervisors or whoever it was, and copy that to every other city and say, you guys go do this similar action. That's democracy in action, because it's actually voted on by those of us who are elected rather than, around some table, et cetera, and 5 or
I've
10
been at
minutes.
that table, so.
I know, I wasn't gonna say the details, okay?
I mean, and I think we need to crop too, but.
So that's why we're talking about it, and the reason I made it separate motions was just to be really clear, instead of having a motion and et cetera. Okay, any other discussion on this one? We have a few more items before break. We're good? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, that will carry. Two quick ones before we take a break. This is direction to the mayor or designated representative for voting on various boards. And I think our city manager has a quick report on this one. There's just one position up, 2 applicants.
Right, 2 letters of interest have been received for the appointment to the North Bay Division League of California Cities Executive Board. That's the appointment. We need to give direction to the mayor for direction to make that appointment.
Okay, the candidates are Chris Albertson from Petaluma and Mark Milan, is that how you say the name? Millen, the mayor of Windsor.
Are they applying for the same position?
Yes.
The Petaluma's had it for years.
Petaluma has been the alternate to our county rep.
Who's the guy from Windsor?
He's the mayor now. I think he's first term in office, I think. I don't know either of these fellows particularly well. Anyone?
I mean,
Just from the applications, it seems like the fellow from Petaluma has some kind of lead-in experience, if he's been the alternate. I don't know. Anyone have a preference? Councilmember Eder.
Well, I'm the alternate to a lot of things I know nothing about, so.
Oh.
So vote for me. The gentleman who is the mayor of Windsor, Mr. Milan, I know him from the Richmond River Watershed Association, very likely. I mean, I sit on that board with him, but I don't really know him. You know, he indicates he has a lot of experience with water resources. He's been on the he's on the WAC. You know, I don't know. This is like a beauty contest. You don't even know these people. This is like a silly process. Like show me two pictures of two people that are strangers to me and have me vote which one.
Most of the time, we know people, but these just happen to be ones we don't know.
So,
always
you know, and I've actually watched Mr. Albertson at Petaluma City Council meetings that I've attended when I was down there fighting Walgreens drive-through window. And, you know, I don't know. He was not that impressive to me, I should say. I mean, I guess I could say that in public.
Okay. A motion to direct our voting person to vote for Windsor mayor.
Second?
So, yeah.
Okay. This is all, okay. Good luck. Did anyone from the public want to comment on this? What about that great confession down there? That was worth some comment, don't you think? Okay. Alrighty. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstentions, that will carry. So the next item before we take a break is the one position that we didn't fill last time. This is number 11. And it's is it the SDA? Thinking it over, would anyone like to volunteer for this? That would be sad if it went empty.
when does it meet?
They meet the Tuesday afternoon, the first Tuesday afternoon. Is that at 1:30 at City Hall?
City Hall.
So it's the afternoon of our first council meeting that month.
First Tuesday of the month?
First Tuesday of the month
So it would be before the council meeting.
at 1:30 at City Hall. They usually meet for an hour.
That time frame was just not enough time to like catch up on the emails and just like actually get to the meeting. Yeah.
Catch up on what emails? Hey, I'm looking, we got a volunteer here. She's saying yes.
Woo! Vice Mayor! All the way.
Does anyone want to
Go.
oppose that volunteer? Are you interested?
I'll be the alternate.
You are so good at it too. Okay. All right, so we need a motion to that effect. I moved by Councilmember Jacob, that,
I'll second.
and seconded by Councilmember Eder, that Una Glass take the assignment to be the SDA liaison, is that what it's called? Liaison.
Okay.
All right, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstentions, that carries. Now we got a break. You guys come back in 5 minutes if you can, because we'll do the goals. Hopefully we finish that by 10 and then go into closed session.
Did you turn on the air conditioner or the heater?
No, it's the heater, it takes a few minutes for it to start blowing water. I usually have to set at the table.
We provide our own heating.
But that was really an easy setup.
So did we say 1 o'clock on Tuesday?
I'm gonna have to go. I'm gonna have to go.
Maybe really clear the area with the get there if you can, and get there is gonna be.
So,
Yeah, no, it's kind of,
What about that thing I said in front of the camera during break?
Yeah, we can stop in this.
I need a 15-minute gap in that. Like Rosemary would.
I don't know why, what's the purpose of the rules?
So, I'm curious.
Why?
I just want to clarify. You say it.
I want to stay for this one, the case.
Where is there something we can do?
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I'll read you verbatim what you said.
Your minutes are always.
Verbatim.
Oh, boy, I'm getting tired of sitting down.
hello.
She has low information to understand stone. That was really
Well,
great on the
I didn't see,
slideshow.
I didn't see the.
Well, he had a PowerPoint and he flashed up some one thing for each city.
Mhm.
And ours that came up with that, cameras goes over. I was hoping he would say, maybe he didn't know how to say it. He got the word, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, what
But it sounded good.
you never know
I
what
didn't
people are
realize
gonna
it
take.
was you.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Well, I realized, I think, this is
I have a very short story. I moved through this. I want to move the city hall down behind the chamber complex, that market, in that area. And they want to do it by letting the contractor build that for them for free. And then the city will allow them, that contractor, to rent space out in there. And that's how they recoup their losses.
Thank you for your fun. You were courageous.
Look,
What do you eat here? Oh,
Good job.
no, that's good protein.
Yeah, you know, takes a lot of protein, right?
I'm sure it's solid muscles, like.
Jeremy eats candy, so this is good. This is good.
Every candy,
Appreciate that.
So does it want to move to City Hall?
I don't know.
No, it's a sweatshirt, but I'm thinking your aid.
Man, it makes such a
I'm gonna
difference.
get one.
You know, my friend gave me this, I don't know where to get another one, I want another one, just like
What do you think I was just, what conversation over there about? Same. I didn't mean we heard. Oh, it's good.
Shut up.
Give me an opportunity like that. You know my seat cushion, woman? Yeah, so that's it, move to City Hall. And the contractor pays for everything. And pretty much, that's the City Hall and library go down. Expand the library up there. The City Hall, I'm sorry, the City Hall was down there.
You were making.
The library is out there because they have to.
there was no one.
The contractor built this place will lease, it's gonna be big.
I would
So
agree.
you can lease out office space. That's how we, and that's called a private-public partnership. According to the city. It's not all that. We're so far out of it, you know, we're the age where you kind of pay for everything, right?
Oh my God.
No, I don't.
We're the one of our presidential candidates.
Not every word that leaves my mouth should be.
Yeah, but this is hard.
And you know, this,
And you need something that will give you
I got one for my car, because I drive down to Pacific Road, Monterey.
Really? That's a long ride.
3 AM. I go down the coast, it's nice.
So
Thank you for that presentation, I even understood part of it. Yes. Yeah, so it's
I'm not
bad.
okay with that simplicity. Folks could have gone a little further. That's all I'm gonna
That's
say.
not her
It's
job.
not okay.
She just reports on it.
Never mind, we don't want the.
No, it was all kidding aside, it was pretty clear, so, yeah.
Oh, no, I get my 3 minutes.
She says she's gonna be city clerk, city manager, and city attorney.
Yeah,
No.
yeah. I mean,
I just know the department heads are all
They were all interested when it comes to money.
Well, I'm not surprised.
yeah, you should take other measures.
That's like sick when it comes down to money.
Where are
You gotta
you?
write it.
Nice good as Omar.
All right. Madam Vice Mayor.
Was in the civic. My girls. And we were at the ocean, I was like, pools and the mayor.
We're gonna give you the minutes to review afterwards.
See you.
Shows up like a rock.
Well, when I
Okay,
was
let's get
there,
back to business here and see what we can do by 10 o'clock.
they're no longer there.
Okay,
No, not.
I'm suggesting,
Yeah, I don't care what those big minutes are.
let me get my gavel out.
We're here.
So we're gonna reconvene here and move on to item number 12, which is right before all the report items, and then we'll have a closed session. So I am hopeful that we can do this. Let's see, the Agenda Review Committee felt it necessary that we take a look at these goals since they were okayed through 2015, and here we are, February of 2016. So this is a report and request that we reaffirm these goals and objectives for an additional fiscal year. So I appreciate staff putting together this great spreadsheet of everything that we're planning to do, everything we've accomplished, all of that. So I just had one item that I felt was missing, and I hope we can follow this pretty quickly. And that is, I didn't see in here any expression of a goal to work to enhance the safety of our community, meaning safety alongside the roads. And the creation of a culture of slower drivers through our neighborhood. So I'm looking at driver safety, pedestrian safety, school kids, you know, all those people who are moving around town on our neighborhood roads. I think we have that goal for enhanced safety and, you know, to have an educational component to that, reach out and how to cross a crosswalk safely, that sort of thing, how to use a crosswalk safely. So I would like that to be added, and I think that the best place to add it is on page 5 of 16, where it's looking at work to improve traffic circulation and enhance trail, bicycle, and pedestrian facilities. That's more about infrastructure. I think we want to add in there a component about safety. Did you find it somewhere?
Well, if you go to page 8, you're the safe, healthy, and attractive environment for
residents and visitors, at least that title has the word safety in it.
Well, I saw that too, but I think that means more, it's more about health and beauty than it is about physical safety. And I'm not talking about safety from crime so much as safety
Yeah.
on the roadways.
And
So,
I agree that under objective 2.2, that's a perfectly logical place. And you're right, that it seems like that topic is sort of danced around in a number of places, but it's never specifically stated.
right. So I would say something as simple as, and it needs to be the patterned language in this document, so I'm not sure this is exactly right, but work to enhance safety of our drivers, pedestrians, and cyclists.
Transit of all modalities.
Transit of all modalities by slowing traffic on our neighborhood streets.
Let's use pedestrians.
Pedestrians,
Pedestrians and drivers, right?
pedestrians, yes. Pedestrians, cyclists, drivers, and transit people of all modalities, other modalities. Did anybody see anything else you want to add? I was really impressed. We did this work because Michael really insisted on it, and it took hours.
And I know, and you all complained, he
We still
complained.
complain about it.
Okay.
It was hard, horrible process.
It was really long, and I'm just saying we have a valuable work product from all that. So are there any other additions people would like to make?
Well, kind of following on to what you were just saying, I had it and now I've lost it, but there's an item in here about Ives Park Master Plan. And, you know, obviously we don't have the money to do that, and maybe this isn't the right venue to bring this up in terms of, it's something that probably should wind up on the CIP. But I think if we can't do the whole picture at Ives Park, I think a significant safety issue exists, and I know we probably don't have a body count, if there even is one, from the intersection of Willow and Jewel, where the little triangle is in the intersection, and you have to cross, and everybody does, including me, and little kids and people with dogs. You have to cross a curved two-lane road where you can't really see in both directions fully to get to this little refuge triangle, and then you cross a little street. And people are confused. They stop at Willow because it's an actual place to stop, and they go, oh, there's no stop sign here. Then the stop sign's at the triangle. And I know there's been several proposals put forward to do it in a non-governmental manner, like put up logs or whatever, fill it in with dirt. But what if we want to look at eliminating that safety issue? And I think it was part of the Ives Park Master Plan original proposal.
Actually, it's in the general plan, the draft general plan, to deal with that. And I'm not, it's a very complicated issue, and I'm not willing to commit to it. I happen to know, because it comes up so often, that, for instance, it was Sue Kelly's opinion that to regularize that to a T intersection and add that property to the park would have been so costly that it wouldn't have been valuable real estate because of the retaining wall and the digging and all that. So that's a pretty complicated one, and actually I see it as a perfect place for a roundabout. Since we don't have one, and almost every city now has roundabouts, and we started that conversation. So for me, that one is,
Are we talking the same intersection?
Yes.
Figure 8.
Well,
Willow and
there's no
Jewel.
retaining wall necessary.
No, but the proposal is, that's what I'm saying, that's really complicated, and I don't feel comfortable
Okay.
committing to that one.
And to me, it's like two
In
pieces
this
of
fast.
curb and some grass, and we could be done. Regularizing it, it doesn't have to be a 90-degree intersection, but I guess it's a subject for another night's discussion. But, I mean, to me, it's like a weekend's worth of work. But anyway, and roundabout, there's not sufficient traffic volume there to justify roundabout, I don't think.
I'm not getting into that discussion.
Okay,
tonight myself.
never mind, well, you have,
Not-
if
you're
any
not
other
protected.
items for.
Figure eight.
Okay, anything else anybody wants to add?
I think there might be a typo on page 6 at the top item. It says design for state highway bike lanes is 95% complete, design for, other than state streets. Okay, my mistake, I misread it.
Okay, Patrick, you have some?
I have two that I'd like to have noted as complete. Page 8 of 16, the very top one, goal 3.2.1, done.
Good.
That was a biggie. And the next biggie is on page 15, item 9.1.6, which is a number that only means something to me. Planning Commission has made its recommendations, and the city council has considered it, and we have done the formula business ordinance.
Yes.
So those are two huge ones on this list that are done.
Neat. Look at that economic development positions right above it there. Wow.
Not all goals.
We're leaving it in. Nobody suggested taking that out.
We'll look at that at budget time.
Right.
Hard.
Okay, any other changes, you have more?
Nope, that's it.
I have one question, and that is that quite a number of these items are alluded to being dealt with in the general plan update. Whose job is it? Is it staff or council or somebody to make sure that nexus actually occurred and that those items are dealt with in the general plan? Otherwise, they're either taken care of or they're still remaining to be dealt with.
Administrative staff is constantly looking at our goals, to try to update them, and we will track that.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have a list, and accomplished,
We like them to say accomplished.
Okay. Thank you.
Makes you feel
All right.
Okay, so I'll check with our city clerk. Do you need a motion to reaffirm these goals with those, I
Yes.
think, the changes mentioned tonight? Okay, I move we reaffirm these goals for another fiscal year with the changes mentioned tonight.
Calendar.
I'm sorry, calendar year or fiscal year?
Fiscal.
It says for an additional fiscal year.
Fiscal year, so it'll be through 2017, June of 2017.
And remember, if any future council wants to review these at any time, they can just agendize and change them up. Maybe you have to talk about it for 20 hours or something.
I second the motion.
All right, any other discussion? Any
Aye.
discussion from the public? Nobody? No? All right, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, abstention? Great, let's move on to reports and then the closed
You're
session.
gonna miss all the good stuff.
City manager, city attorney reports. City clerk.
Two reports real quick.
Have a good night.
One is to remind you again that we're hosting mayors and council members February 11th, which we've already discussed this evening. Secondly, an update on CVS. So today,
Hey, John.
today we received an email from the CVS Architects office that stated that they would be pulling permits within the next 2 weeks. If nothing else, that's the first email I've seen that is specific as to a time period. The document I have right here is our latest case management statement that we filed with the court, which is not quite as optimistic as what I just said, that we have to protect ourselves, but mentioned next 2 weeks, so we'll see if that happens.
Will those permits include demo permits?
The very first permit that I'm gonna make personally sure is all shipshape and got all the documentation and is thereafter granted will be the demo permit. But they're pending on pulling building permits.
So the plan check is complete?
To the best of my knowledge and recollection, yes, the plan check is reported complete.
Okay, we can get a permit without a completed plan.
Yes, it is. That's done as we can be.
Well,
Mhm.
As part of the plan check process, do they submit architectural renderings and elevations?
I don't know that they have elevations submitted, they must have, but I haven't seen them. I haven't seen them. I did ask the